Hello and welcome. Today we're not so much in the garden as we are, well, reclining really, and letting nature do most of the rather gorgeous work for us. Imagine a garden, your very own little patch of green, brimming with life, with plump tomatoes and fragrant herbs, all achieved with a certain, shall we say, approach. It's not about being lazy, you understand, but about being clever, about coaxing the earth to give its best with the gentlest of nudges. This is gardening for those of us who adore the results but prefer the process to be a soothing balm rather than a strenuous chore. Look at this little haven here, my patio garden. It's rather thriving, isn't it? And you'll notice, not a fearsome array of tools in sight, no back-breaking implements, just happy plants mingling contentedly. This isn't magic, though it does feel rather magical sometimes. It's the simple, beautiful art of companion planting, but with a wonderfully laid-back twist. Want a productive garden that practically takes care of itself? Oh, I thought you might. Let's build a lazy companion planting plan, shall we? It's easier than you think, and oh, so rewarding. The secret, if you can call it that, is to understand that plants, much like people, have their preferred company. Some offer protection, others a little nutritional boost, and some simply create a more harmonious living arrangement. By choosing these partnerships wisely, we create a self-sustaining little ecosystem where the plants look after each other, leaving us more time to simply enjoy their beauty and, of course, their delicious bounty. It's about working smarter, not harder, and achieving a truly abundant garden with an almost scandalous lack of effort. Come with me. Now, the very first step, and it's a rather delightful one, is choosing our plant partnerships. Think of it as matchmaking for your vegetable patch. We want couples or even little groups that bring out the best in each other. The aim here is for resilience, for plants that not only tolerate each other but actively support one another. This means less fussing from us, fewer interventions, and a garden that hums along quite happily on its own. Consider the classic pairing of tomatoes and basil. The basil, with its pungent aroma, deters pests like whiteflies and hornworms. And some say, though it's a lovely whisper of garden lore, that basil even improves the flavour of the tomatoes. They just look so content together, the deep red of a ripening tomato nestled against the vibrant green of basil leaves. Then we have the robust squash paired with the pretty nasturtium. Nasturtiums lure aphids away from your squash plants, acting as a sacrificial offering. The squash, with its broad leaves, provides shade for the nasturtium's roots, keeping them cool and content. And we mustn't forget the three sisters beans, corn and squash. The corn provides a sturdy stalk for the beans to climb. The beans enrich the soil, feeding their companions. And the squash acts as a living mulch, suppressing weeds and keeping the soil moist and cool. When you choose these resilient combinations, you're essentially outsourcing a good deal of your garden maintenance to the plants themselves. They become their own pest control, their own soil enhancers, their own support systems. It's like having a tiny, diligent team of garden helpers who work for sunshine and water. This isn't about neglecting your garden. It's about fostering its independence, allowing it to flourish with a gentle, guiding hand, rather than constant, anxious tending. Think about the scents, the textures, the way the colours play off each other. A tomato vine heavy with fruit, its leaves releasing that unmistakable earthy perfume, intertwined with the sweet, almost clove-like fragrance of basil. The vibrant orange and yellow of nasturtium flowers spilling around the base of a sturdy squash plant. These are the details that transform a simple vegetable patch into a place of sensory pleasure. The beauty of these partnerships is their inherent strength. They are less susceptible to the whims of pests and diseases because they support each other's health. A plant that is stressed is a plant that is vulnerable, but a plant that is content, that has its needs met by its neighbours, is a plant that can thrive. And a thriving plant is a productive plant, which is, after all, what we're aiming for, even in our wonderfully relaxed way. So, as you plan your garden, don't just think about individual plants, think about the relationships between them. Now let's delve a little deeper, quite literally, into the art of pairing plants based on their root structures. It sounds terribly technical, I know, but it's really rather intuitive and incredibly effective for our lazy yet luscious garden. We want to avoid a subterranean squabble for resources, you see. Instead, we aim for a harmonious cohabitation where plants occupy different levels beneath the soil, each drawing what it needs without imposing on its neighbors. The principle is wonderfully simple. Pair plants with deep tap roots with those that have shallower, more fibrous root systems. Think of it as vertical stacking, but underground. One set of roots delves deep into the earth, accessing nutrients and moisture from lower down, while the other explores the upper layers of soil. This way, they aren't competing directly for the same resources in the same space. A rather lovely example of this is planting lettuce around the base of pepper plants. Peppers tend to send their roots down a bit deeper, searching for stability and sustenance. Lettuce, on the other hand, has a more modest, shallower root system. It's perfectly content to sip moisture and nutrients from the top few inches of soil. The lettuce also acts as a rather charming living mulch, helping to keep the soil cool and moist for the pepper's roots. Similarly, consider the elegant chives with their delicate grassy foliage, planted beneath the more substantial eggplant. Eggplants have roots that venture downwards, seeking a firm anchor and deeper nourishment. Chives, with their relatively shallow roots, are happy to occupy the surface layer, and as an added bonus, the chives with their oniony aroma can help to deter certain pests that might fancy a nibble of your beautiful glossy eggplants. This method of pairing isn't just about avoiding competition, it's about maximizing the use of your precious garden space, both above and below ground. Every inch of soil can be productive if we choose our companions wisely. And when the plants are happy, drawing what they need from different soil strata, they are stronger, healthier, and more resistant to stress. This, of course, translates to less intervention required from us, which is precisely our aim. So, when you're tucking your seedlings into their beds, spare a thought for what's happening beneath the surface. Visualize those roots, some reaching down, others spreading wide but shallow. Stack your crops vertically in this unseen dimension. Now, let's look upwards and outwards. Having considered the delightful camaraderie underground, we turn our attention to the space above. A truly lazy yet lavish garden makes use of every available dimension. We're going to think in layers, creating a veritable jungle of food, a tapestry of textures and heights. This isn't about neat regimented rows. It's about a joyful, slightly wild abundance where every plant finds its place in the sun or the shade as it prefers. The concept is simple. Combine plants that grow to different heights and have different forms. We're talking climbers that reach for the sky, bushy, medium-sized plants that fill the middle ground, and lovely ground cover plants that carpet the soil beneath. It's like creating a miniature food forest, a self-sustaining system where each layer supports the others. This not only maximizes your yield, but also creates a visually stunning, dynamic garden. Imagine a wall rack, perhaps on a sunny patio or balcony. At the top you could have cucumbers, those enthusiastic climbers happily scrambling up a trellis or cascading downwards. This vertical growth is a fantastic space saver, drawing the eye upwards and creating a sense of lushness even in a compact area. Then, in the layer below, perhaps in a container on a shelf or in the main bed beneath the cucumbers, you could have something like spinach or other leafy greens. These plants are often quite content with a little less direct sun, especially during the hotter parts of the day. And at the very base, you could tuck in some strawberries as a ground cover, their runners spreading out, their sweet red fruits peeking from beneath the leaves. This ground layer is vital. It protects the soil, suppresses weeds, and adds another dimension of interest and productivity. This layered approach isn't just for wall racks, of course. You can apply the same principles in garden beds, in raised planters, even in individual large pots. Think of a tall sunflower with beans climbing its sturdy stalk and a low-growing squash or melon spreading out at its feet. Or a fruit tree underplanted with herbs and flowering ground covers. The possibilities are as boundless as your imagination. The beauty of this system is that it mimics the way plants grow in nature. In a forest, you have the tall canopy trees, the understory shrubs, and the ground-covering herbs and ferns, all coexisting harmoniously. By recreating this layered structure in our gardens, we tap into that same natural resilience and productivity. Now we arrive at a truly blissful stage, the art of setting things up for success, and then, well, rather forgetting about them, or at least not fussing unduly. This is where the lazy part of our Lazy Gardener's Guide truly comes into its own, though I prefer to think of it as elegantly efficient. It's about creating a garden that is so well prepared, so thoughtfully arranged, that it requires minimal ongoing intervention from us. A garden that, to a large extent, looks after itself. The cornerstone of this approach is good soil preparation, but done in a wonderfully low-effort way. At the beginning of the season, or when you're first planting up a container, incorporate a generous amount of good quality compost. This isn't about double digging or back-breaking labor, it's about gently enriching the soil, giving your plants a fantastic start in life. Compost is like a slow-release feast for your plants, providing nutrients over time, improving soil structure, and helping it to retain moisture. Add it once, generously, and it will work its magic for months. Once your plants are in, and you've added that lovely compost, the next step to a set-it-and-forget-it garden is mulching. A good layer of organic mulch, think shredded bark, straw, or even well-rotted leaf mold, does so many wonderful things. It suppresses weeds, which means less tedious weeding for you. It helps to retain soil moisture, meaning less frequent watering. And as it slowly breaks down, it continues to feed the soil. It's a protective, nurturing blanket for your plants. And speaking of watering, let's talk about making that as effortless as possible. Drip irrigation systems or soaker hoses are an absolute revelation for the time-strapped, or, shall we say, relaxed gardener. You lay them out once amongst your plants, perhaps hidden beneath that layer of mulch, and they deliver water directly to the roots, slowly and efficiently. No more standing around with a hose pipe, no more water wasted on leaves or through evaporation. You can even put them on a timer, so the garden waters itself. If a full irrigation system feels like too much of a faff, then simply adopt a deep watering strategy. When you do water, water thoroughly and less frequently, rather than giving a little sprinkle every day. This encourages plants to send their roots down deeper in search of moisture, making them more resilient to dry spells. Water at the base of the plants, in the cool of the morning or evening to minimize evaporation. The companion planting strategies we've already discussed play a huge role here too. Plants that protect each other from pests mean less spraying or intervening from you. Plants that enrich the soil mean less need for constant feeding. Plants that cover the ground and suppress weeds mean less weeding. It all contributes to a garden that is largely self-sufficient. And now, my darlings, for the rather lovely culmination of all our gentle efforts, a little tour of a garden that thrives on these principles of clever companionship and benign neglect. This is where we see it all come together. The resilient partnerships, the layered planting, the set-it-and-forget-it systems, creating a space that is not only productive, but also a deep source of joy and tranquility. Look here, at this little corner. We have those wonderful tomatoes, tall and laden with ripening fruit, their scent mingling with the basil that flourishes at their feet. The basil, looking so verdant and happy, is doing its quiet work, keeping unwanted visitors at bay, while the tomatoes reach for the sun, untroubled. There's a sense of harmony here, a peaceful coexistence that is utterly charming. And over here, see how the nasturtiums are spilling out from beneath the courgette plants. Their vibrant orange and yellow flowers are like little bursts of sunshine, attracting pollinators, and as we know, luring those pesky aphids away from our precious squash. The broad leaves of the courgettes provide a lovely bit of shade, keeping the soil beneath them cool and moist. Notice the layers too. Perhaps a climbing bean scrambling up a simple support, with some bushy herbs like parsley or thyme filling the space below, and maybe a scattering of alpine strawberries as a delightful edible ground cover. Every inch is utilized not in a forced or regimented way, but with a sense of natural abundance. It's a tapestry of different heights, textures, and colors, a feast for the eyes as well as the palate. This vertical thinking really does transform a space. And if you were to peek beneath the mulch, you'd find the soil moist and friable, teeming with life. That initial dose of compost is still working its magic, slowly releasing nutrients. The drip irrigation lines, if you're using them, are providing just the right amount of water, directly where it's needed with no fuss and no waste. This kind of garden invites you to linger, to observe. You might spot a ladybird diligently munching on aphids, or a bee buzzing happily from flower to flower. These are the signs of a healthy, balanced ecosystem, one that we've gently encouraged rather than rigidly controlled. There's a certain wildness to it, a joyful exuberance that is far more appealing to my mind than a perfectly manicured plot. The beauty of this approach is its adaptability. Whether you have a large garden, a small patio, or just a few pots on a balcony, these principles of companion planting and layered design can be applied. It's about working with what you have, making smart choices, and letting nature do a good part of the work. It's gardening that fits into your life, rather than taking it over. And so, that's a little glimpse into the rather blissful world of lazy, or as I prefer, cleverly effortless companion planting. It's about creating a garden that gives generously, without demanding your constant fretful attention. A garden that is a joy to behold, a pleasure to be in, and of course a delight to harvest from. I do hope you feel inspired to try some of these gentle techniques in your own little patch of green, to coax forth abundance with a light and loving hand. Remember, the key is to work with nature, not against it. Choose plants that support each other, layer them thoughtfully, and set up systems that minimize your chores. It's about fostering a self-sustaining little ecosystem where your plants can truly flourish. Think of it as curating a rather wonderful, ongoing botanical party, and your main role is simply to enjoy the delightful company and the delicious refreshments. It's a deeply rewarding way to connect with the earth and with the food you eat. This is just one way to approach the companion planting dance, of course. There are so many wonderful combinations and strategies to explore. Let me know if you'd like a version for raised beds, perhaps some clever trellis combos for vertical spaces, or even ideas tailored to specific growing zones. There's always more to discover, more to delight in. Until then, happy, effortless gardening.